Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Jets, and I'm here to talk about Week 17, where the Jets lose to the Seattle Seahawks 23-6, and the drought is at 12. I don't feel like waiting till next week to do the sad lamenting of the season video, so we're going to do that this week, and then we'll just treat next week like the last day of school. 12 years. 12 years! 12 years. If you want visual learning, I was wearing this the last time we were in the playoffs. Hey, look, it still fits. And you guys remember a couple years ago when the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs, it was that national news story because they broke that ridiculously long drought, and like all the Bills fans lost their minds after Andy Dalton beat the Ravens, I believe, and then gave the Bills their playoff spot, and they donated like $150,000 or whatever to his charity. You remember that thing? You remember that big, massive news story? That was only 17 years. Like, we're closing in. Like, that ain't too far out of reach. Hey, you want to hate everything? If you would have had a celebration baby the last time the Jets won a playoff game, which would have been, 2011, so you have the baby at the end of the year, they'd be in like 6th grade. Hey, Jets fans, what would hurt worse next week? Watching the Dolphins win and clinch against us, or the Patriots make the playoffs, likely by the 2 games that we lost to them by? Pain. To the Jets' credit, they let us know very quickly that we could completely put our hopes to bed. They were not going to do it. Opening play for Seattle is a 60-yard run for Kenneth Walker. And, yeah, quick touchdown. The fact Geno Smith eliminated us today. Oh, my. Why did I say that out loud? Here's a fun one. Geno Smith today threw for his 4,000th yard. We haven't had a 4,000-yard passer since Namath. I want to cry. The Seahawks offense went touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and in a blink we're up 17-3. And it didn't feel like we were getting beat 17-3. We played well for a portion of it. We moved the ball well. We had big chunks of yardage. Ty Johnson, who is like a cockroach that continues to survive nuclear fallout every time this Jets team just bleaches the entire roster year after year. I don't know how he's still here. And that's not to insult Ty Johnson, who has honestly emerged as a pretty solid back the past few weeks. But, like, he was moving the ball well. Bam Knight had some big moves. White had a couple of nice throws. He would not play well today, but, Like, we were moving it well. We would just stall out when we got to their side of the field, but we could move it well till we got to there, but it would just stall out. 17-3, it didn't feel like it. Offense was weird because it would have these massive chunks of yardage every once in a while. They'd have like this 20-yard burst to give you hope, and then it would just be 3 and out or turnover to completely kill anything. The offense the past like 4 or 5 games has been dead, and then you get to the late part of like the 3rd quarter or the 4th quarter, and then they'd spring to life, make it competitive, give you hope, and then fall off a cliff. This wasn't that. This was just an ember slowly burning out as you prayed to God it would catch something on fire, and it just couldn't. There was no help coming this week. Mike White did not have a good game, and I'd be lying if I said he did. I applaud him for playing. 3 fractured ribs, I believe, and he still went out there and played the full 60. It is so blindingly clear that he loves this team, he loves this locker room, and he wants more than anything to compete. I don't think he is the future. I don't think he's the guy that you roll with. I don't think Joe Douglas or Robert Saleh next year are willing to stake their careers on Mike White. But, if they do, I'm okay with it. You have built a good enough team on offense, defense, and the locker room, the culture that Robert Saleh has brought in, and everything else that's been put there by Joe Douglas is good enough. You do not need a superstar quarterback. You don't need top 5. You don't need top 10. I don't even honestly think you need top 15. You need 20 and above. You need mid and above. Just not constantly making dumb turnovers. And you can be a playoff team, maybe more. The defense continues to be weird because you watch it and you're like, this isn't great. And then you see the fact that they only allowed like 19, 20, 20, 23. Like, those are very, very winnable games. You have a defense that puts that up every single week. That's top 10. Like, if you have a defense that can consistently only allow the other team to get 20 points, that's a top 10 defense. That's a really good defense. Again, this was another bad game. This was worse than the Jacksonville game, and Through those 2 games, they allowed an average of like 22 points. I hate it here. One player on defense that I do think should be called out for how good they were today was Sauce Gardner. He was fantastic. The past few weeks, teams have just decided I'm not throwing to his side of the ball or his side of the field. And today the Seahawks tried it. Couple of really nice breakups. Sauce is fantastic. He should be the unanimous Defensive Rookie of the Year. Should be a unanimous All-Pro. He is absolutely amazing. So that was the game, but the season overall has this weird storyline to it where I think a lot of outside people, anyone who's covering the team that isn't a Jets fan or Jets reporter who's been following this team for a bit, the storyline is probably same old Jets. They had 3 different weeks where they were 3 games above 500, being 5-2 and then 6-3 and then 7-4, where your playoff spot was all but locked up. How could you have possibly biffed it that badly? How could you have blown this? Yada, yada, yada. I think that's the story from the outside. And the way I see it, and people might call this a loser's mentality, honestly, that's fine. I'm just happy to be competitive. I'm happy that we finally got to be eliminated late. It sounds dumb. It was nice. It was nice to actually watch, like, almost a full season without thinking about the draft. You look at some of the top YouTubers for the Jets, guys like Matt O'Leary, Jets Talk 24/7, Jets Central, all of the greats, and it's like October and we're doing mock drafts. We're talking about the free agent class. We're talking about the next season in week 5. It was so refreshing to watch a full season hopeful, thinking about the playoffs. Going into it, every single Jets fan said, what I want from the season is hope. I want to be in December, and I want to see the Jets in the hunt. I want to see it on that Chiron. And we got it. This was the first taste of being good. And you weren't good enough, but you were heading in that direction. This was not a failure of a season. This was a good step forward. And it hurts. It hurts like hell. And I'm happy it does. Because now next year, all of the players in this building don't want to feel that sting again. I definitely think the goalpost moved as the season progressed, because a lot of people coming into it said, if they don't make the playoffs, Douglas probably has to go, and we're not making the playoffs. We might not finish above, we're not finishing above 500, let me rephrase that. You might finish 8-9, probably 7-10 if we're being honest. I think the Dolphins are going to find a way to win next week. And you look at that on paper and you go, that's not very good. You blew a chance to make the playoffs. You made nothing at the deadline to better your team or look towards the future. You just kind of held all of your stock to see what happened. I definitely think Douglas should come back next year. Saleh shouldn't even be a question. LaFleur, I would like to see a full season of LaFleur with the new quarterback. He had some good play calls when he didn't have Zach Wilson just dragging the rest of the team down with him. So I would like to see LaFleur with a mediocre quarterback before we make the full decision on him. And if you need a fall guy by week 5 of next year, voila. I think the most important part of the season never came during a game. It would come before and after in the pressers. And it was all of the different players and coaches meeting head on the same old Jets moniker. So many times you'll hear players and coaches like kind of talk about something. You know, they'll use fancy language to kind of allude to it, but they'll never outright say it. They treat it like the name Voldemort. They just will not say it. The Jets met it head on this year. Players, not long tenured players, players who came in as rookies or first year on contracts, came in and fully embraced, took on the weight of a past that they just did not have to. They embraced what this team has been, and they have been the same old Jets. And after week 2, the entire team started to talk about not being the same old Jets anymore. And when they were 5-2, you bet that they were saying they were not the same old Jets anymore, and it did not feel like we were. And I still maintain, even now, even after we blew what we had, I still maintain that these are not the same old Jets anymore. I think the general media, fans around the league are going to say that they're the same old Jets and look what happened. My advice is to do it. Point, laugh, and talk about how dumb Charlie Brown is because he thought he was going to kick the football this time. Use this as a punching bag for your jokes. And enjoy it. Because it's the last time you're going to be able to do it for a long while. Because in a year from now, this team, you won't be able to say a damn thing about this team. And also, sorry about the length of this video. End of season videos just get kind of long and rambly because everything that you've kind of wanted to say and built up in your mind has finally come to a boiling point because you're not really going to get a chance to talk about it for a long while afterwards. And I know it isn't technically the end of the season, that'll be next week, but it's going to be a super late after the fact video next week where I'm probably not going to be able to upload it till like 1 or 2 in the morning. Just a heads up there. So this is really functioning as the end of the season video, and again, next week is just going to be the last day of school. But as for this week in this video, I think that's everything I have to say. I'll be here next week when the Jets play the Dolphins in Miami at 1 o'clock. And Miami, I'd rather see you over the New England, so good luck. But I'll be here afterwards to talk about it. That's all I have for the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider to like and subscribe. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day, and as always, go Jets.